clue to what the hell I'm doing. I don't have a set pattern that I use over everything, which I kind of like about my playing, because then everything I play tends to sound differently. I use a different picking pattern for almost everything I do. So when I play a fast run, it might sound a little bit different from another fast run because I don't alternate pick everything the same, or I don't up down and down down up pick everything the same. I have different patterns that suit each lick differently, and I kind of purposely have done that, and I kind of didn't purposely do that. I just don't like the sound of, you know, some guys have this alternate picking going. They're really good at it, but whenever they break into a fast lick, their run, doesn't matter what the run is, it sounds the same. I mean, they could be playing a completely different passage, different phrase, but the way they pick is going to make it sound exactly the same. So I try not to get any kind of picking patterns that are just going to be the same for everything. So let's take as an example that thing that I just did. Okay, here's a right-hand, left-hand thing whereabouts I'm kind of moving up and down the neck. You know, I find that I do it quite a bit, and I don't really stay in one position. I'll take a pattern and I'll move it rather than staying in a box or a position with it. So let's take a little picking pattern and move it around and check it out and see what's going on. Okay, let's break that down and then I'll show you a variation of that. What I did was I took notes that are sort of in an A scale. I didn't really have any strict kind of way to follow any note pattern. I just did what looks easiest for the fingers. And I took a pattern that was like this. When you want to play fast and you take one simple pattern that's easy to move around, that's basically a good way to do it. And just taking something that's easy in one position and doing it all over the place. This kind of makes sense. And you can make it a little bit more confusing sounding, like by adding a note to each one of these little patterns. Like, say, instead of going, let's go like this. Every other time we'll go, so quickly it'll sound like. A little bit more interesting sounding. I mean, this is just your basic way to move from one place to the other. Take a pattern that's easy to repeat. Or you can randomly change the riff. Instead of doing it every other time, changing it, you can go like this. If you make these things separate, they're going to sound cool and they're going to sound smooth, and you can practice them separately. Now the riff goes like this. One of them goes like this. It's just a pattern that stops. And to get a good attack on this type of thing is start it with a downstroke every time. So if you do that together without stopping, it's going to be really smooth like this. And then the variation is a lick that goes like this. Now I'll show you how to use that lick in a sentence, if you will, or in a progression. And kind of basic patterns, moving it around up and down like I just did, and how you would apply it into a normal situation. 3, 4. And then the variation is a lick that goes like this. Now I'll show you how to use that lick in a sentence, if you will, or in a progression. And kind of basic patterns, moving it around, up and down, like I just did, and how you would apply it into a normal situation. 3, 4. Basically, if you're just playing what's easiest for you to pick, that's, as a rule, the best way to go. And don't think that you have to pick something a particular way, just because maybe your friend picks it that way. Your hand is, everybody's hands are different, so just do what's easiest as far as picking goes, and there are no rules other than that. You probably noticed that I have a lot of really weird ways to bend notes, and I do. And I think the best thing to do with bending is realize that there's a lot of different ways to bend to a note other than the conventional way that you've been brought up doing. Now, say you want to get to A, that A, chances are you're going to probably go. Right? Now, there's two really obvious other ways to get there. It's from half step behind the note, or maybe even a step and a half. As long as you get the pitch correctly, it doesn't really matter where you bend from. And there's a lot of different ways to phrase a bend in your vibrato and make it sound a particular way. You know. Having these bends coming from weird notes is really nice when you're following a chord progression, because that allows you to hit a really strange note for a half a second and really grab the listener's ears. You know what I mean? Say the chord is D, and the note that I decide I want to choose is A, but I hit it from this note. It's got a really attention-grabbing thing. I mean, if you play D and I hit it from here, it's real normal, but if I stop on this note, I'm really going to get your attention, because that note for that split second sounds really awful. You know, you've got D and A flat together. Not something you want to hang out on for too long, but if you get into pitch correctly, quick enough, it's going to sound really nice. And let's try a lot of different ones. Keeping the chord D, let's take a bunch of different target notes and hit them from strange notes. So that time I went to an F sharp, which is in a D major chord, and I went there from F natural, going from minor to major. And now I'm going to go to the root from a D flat, which is the major seventh. I'm going to go like this. Now let's take a note that's totally illegal and go from like a D sharp and hit an E natural over the key of D. That's kind of tricky, because you get to a note that's like still interesting over the chord, but you start from a note that's totally hellish. So you can take the D sharp and bend to like even a major third, go all the way from a D sharp to an F sharp, and you get something like this. That's really drastic. That's about as drastic as you may want to get. You can take something also like, say, an A flat.